The big guy has made up his mind. With his helicopter buzzing so loudly you could barely understand him, Joe Biden telling reporters how he's finally decided on a response to the Iran-linked strike that killed 3 U.S. soldiers.
Yes. I do hold them responsible in the sense that they're supplying the weapons to the people who did it.
These strikes have not deterred these attacks in the past. What will be different this time?
We'll see.
Are you the reason why the city? Why the city? How worried are you?
I don't think we need a wider war in the Middle East. That's not what I'm looking for.
Good answer. So what pain could Joe be planning for Iran? A strongly worded letter? A nasty voicemail? Put one of the radical mullahs in timeout? So far, Biden has been moot on the battle plans, but his administration is giving the Iranians one heck of a heads up. Blinken is hinting the response would likely come in stages and be sustained over time. And someone in the Biden camp gave the media an advanced copy of the targets. Among the Pentagon's options, striking Iranian personnel in Syria or Iraq, or Iranian naval assets in the Gulf. But whatever Joe decides to do in Iran, he better be careful. Looks like he's already ticked off someone at MSNBC.
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another war.
I guess she said something after that. I didn't quite hear it. You know, Dana, if there's something you love more than life itself, it's a good, solid interview in front of a helicopter.
Absolutely. It's been driving me crazy for a while. And today I snapped on America's Newsroom.
Yes.
And then something happened just before the show that's going to make me snap again. Just kidding. I won't bring that up.
I will.
Here's the thing. So I can understand the White House comms people not wanting him to take questions on this. I can understand them being concerned about how he might handle himself at a podium. However, this, I think, when they come out, and the only time he does ever interviews with the press is when he's in front of the helicopter when it's whirring, and you have to use closed caption to understand what the leader of the free world is trying to say about wanting to provide a wider war, about his thoughts and prayers and feelings about the fallen U.S. soldiers and those who are injured. Here's the thing. You see that room he just walked out of, if you look at the video, it's called the diplomatic reception room. Set up a podium there. Put the press pool there. As he walks out, let him make a statement direct to the camera, because he's not just speaking to the media. He's speaking to the American people, to the families of the fallen, our troops. They want to know, do you have our back? Because you have us here in the Middle East. Are you going to do all that you can to protect us if we're going to be here? He's speaking to our allies. They want to know what the commander-in-chief is saying. He's speaking to our enemies as well. And I think it makes him look weak. I don't think it's good for him. I don't think it's good for transparency. I don't think it looks good for all the things that they say that they were going to do in terms of the most transparent White House in the history of the nation, which is obviously not true. And I want the leader of the free world to come off as strong, and doing this in front of the helicopter every single time he walks out is just weak.
Maybe they just don't want people to hear what he's actually saying. That could be it. Jesse, you like to have it both ways. Can we criticize Joe for being evasive and then hit them for being too specific?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what he's going to do yet, but I've heard what he's going to do, and he's supposed to hit some proxies in Syria and Iraq. That doesn't do much because that's the whole point of proxies. They're kind of dispensable. You can retrain young radical Muslims, rearm them, and then they're right back on the battlefield.
They're like the Joker's henchmen.
Exactly what I was thinking. And I heard he's going to hit some Iranian naval assets. Okay, so that maybe cuts off some of the logistic relationships with the Houthis in Yemen. Okay, I still have to, General Waters still thinks we need to go after the petroleum industry in that country. That'll set him back years. But I think China is a huge client of Iranian oil, so his puppet masters probably don't want him to do that, which is why he won't do it. He's probably going to do as little as possible just so he can say he's doing something. His entire foreign policy has been quite a disaster. If you think about the Afghanistan exit. You got a war now in the Middle East. You got a war now in Europe. He let the Chinese spy on us. He's losing the opium war. He's allowing an invasion into Texas. This guy's been an absolute disaster. And Joy Reid should say that, because you have to respect the audience. And if I'm all up for a hot mic.
Me too.
I love me a hot mic.
Yeah.
As long as it's authentic. Like if they ever caught you on a hot mic, they'd be like, yep, that's Greg.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I got busted about the old having to pee, remember?
Right. Yeah. And you constantly talk about your bladder problems.
Yes. That wasn't me, Dana, in the bathroom, by the way.
At Fox, when Trump was president, we had hosts here who were very critical of his foreign policy. Venezuela, Cuba, his China trade policy, his North Korean diplomacy. They were constantly criticizing me, and I think that's good and that's healthy, but don't talk out of both sides of your mouth, because that's not right. I think I respect MSNBC's audience more than MSNBC does.
You're so right. And you're willing to sacrifice with going after petroleum, which will drive up the prices in hair care products. I mean,
I have stockpiles, Greg.
Oh, good. Judge, so we have these crises in the Middle East, but it feels like the crisis is in the confidence of our own president. There's a crisis in confidence going on right now.
And there has been for a while, Greg. The truth is that the man just does not project. He doesn't project confidence. He doesn't project strength. And we all see it, which is why we always have anxiety every time he comes out. Whether Dana can't hear it and I can't hear it because of the whirl of the helicopter, or because he did like he did last week in Wisconsin. It is frightening. But you know what? I think that this issue is a huge issue. And, you know, I don't want to go over what we did, but, you know, what was it, 4 months ago when they said the Middle East has never been more quiet? And then today or yesterday we had Blinken saying it's never been more dangerous. I mean, this is an administration that doesn't have a handle on what's going on. And I want to just try to make it clear so that we don't get political here. The bottom line is they have attacked us 190 times. We've got 3 Americans killed in Jordan. We have the 2 Navy SEALs and 1 contractor. We have over 80 wounded in Iraq and Syria and 40 wounded in Jordan. So it's 120 wounded, 6 dead, 190 attacks on us. You know how many times we responded? 10. 10. If you're a red-blooded American, you're pissed off. You're angry right now. All right? Because that's not the way it's supposed to be. Now, the question is, no administration has gone into Iran, okay? Apparently, Jimmy Carter tried it, and that was a disaster with the hostages. But, you know, if we just go after the Houthis and this one and that, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference. The truth is that we either have to drop bridges or go after their munitions or send some cruise missiles in there. I don't know what the answer is. But he may have to get permission from Congress on this. And that's where Congress is going to start negotiating for Ukraine and for Israel. But the bottom line is, you know, when Trump killed Soleimani, that was the end of it. They didn't respond. They knew Trump was serious.
There were 2 service members who were hit by a missile attack and died after
There was a missile attack, but it didn't start a world war. If we go after, everyone is saying, and what Biden is saying, I don't want a world war. I don't want to make a bigger war. He's such a wuss on the world stage. He signals everything that he's afraid of.
Jessica, in the green room, you said something that was really striking to me. You said the great thing about Trump is you didn't know whether he was going to come with a carrot or a stick painted like a carrot. I thought that was very clever.
Always little orange things that he would carry around. So there were, and we discussed this yesterday, 2 American service members who did die in the wake of the attack. I understand.
A world war.
Okay, but 3 people died a few days ago, and 2 people died when Trump was president. Those are pretty comparable numbers.
What are you talking about? We've got 120 people injured since October 17th.
Okay, and you have 65 service members that died during the Trump administration.
Wait a minute. We are in the middle of a war in the Middle East. Do not minimize the number of Americans being attacked.
Well, then talk about the 65 service members that died under the Trump administration. Okay. So Hezbollah has announced that they are now suspending attacks. I'm sure that will be short-lived, but they have released a statement saying we will continue to defend our people in Gaza, obviously linking this directly to the conflict that's going on with Israel in other ways. Hopefully that sticks and they'll be out for at least a little while here. I was heartened to see, and I don't disagree, Dana, about the clarity that needs to come from the commander-in-chief in how he presents whatever he is going to say to the American public and to the families. But it is good news. He called all of the service members' families. He will be there when they are returned to the United States, which is something that people were wondering about yesterday. And the judge brought up the funding bill. And it is important that since the end of October, there has been a request from the White House for $106 billion to not only fund what's going on in Ukraine and Israel, but to make sure that we can fight back against Russia and its proxies, which includes Iran and is part of this. So I hope that they will approve that funding, certainly seeing that we did lose 3 service members here, and every life absolutely matters. I'm just not for acting as if it was completely fine that in this period and it's an abject disaster in this period.
I never said that,
You
Jessica.
did.
I never said that.
2 seconds ago,
I said
you
when
said-
we went after the leader, Soleimani,
Yeah.
there was not the reaction that it would start a world war. Just like all this guy talks about is, we don't want a wider conflict. We got American hostages. We don't even know. Let me finish. We don't even know if they're still alive that were taken by Hamas. We got
And
Americans
that's
that were
Joe
killed.
Biden's fault? That's
No,
Joe Biden's
I'm
fault?
talking about the danger in the Middle East to Americans.
But the danger in the Middle East to Americans and indeed to Israelis and to other allies is rooted in what has gone on in Israel and actions that Bibi.
All right, we got to move on. But we have to
Okay.
point out that Biden did renew funding to the agency that helped
Yes.
plan
The attack.
October 7th. And that was something, the funding that Trump had suspended.
The $6 billion that
No,
didn't change
UNRWA.
No,
hands?
the UNRWA.
No.
UNRWA with the UN.
Well, then it's all Joe Biden's fault.
Finally, we agree.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.